Captain's log, June 14th, 3063. All is well here in EPSILON-9 Sector Alpha 3. I am projected to arrive at my destination at approximately 2100 hours. Mission: attempt rescue of the Royal Cruiser. Captain Mercer out, he said as he flicked switches and buttons on his control panel, finalizing his checks before the ship jumped. The jump felt routine to Mercer. This was not his first time being sent on a rescue mission. His furthest rescue being Alpha 7, Uranus, where he helped an exploratory science vessel by repairing a severe hardware problem using his skills in aerospace mechanics. Jumping further than Alpha 5 was off-limits to almost all ships due to its unpredictable spatial anomalies. Out of the 3 pilots approved by the Galactic Command to traverse further than Alpha 5's jump space, Captain Mercer was the best, hence why he had been chosen for this mission. His seat reclined, preparing him for the strong inertia from the jump. He stared out the glass roof into the infinite void of space as his ship counted down. 10, 9, 8. He took slowed breaths to normalize his heartbeat as beads of sweat formed on his forehead. 7, 6, 5. He tapped the side of his seat anxiously. 4, 3, 2. He took a gulp of air in anticipation of the jump. 1. In an instant, space folded around him like a bubble, giving him a 360-degree view of everything around him. His chin tucked into his chest as the ship lunged forward. The Earth and the Moon folded in front of him and in an instant zipped by. Suddenly, in mid-jump, his alarms blared, detecting an anomalous fluctuation ahead of his ship. He tried his best to maneuver around it, but at his current speed, he was incapable of turning fast enough. Part of his ship clipped the anomalous energy at hyperspeed, causing the ship to jerk in all directions, whiplashing him unconscious. Mercer awoke to the bright red emergency lights on his console and to blaring alarms. He tried to move his aching body, but it felt like he jumped through several panes of glass. His head pounded with every heartbeat, and his ears rang loudly, almost drowning out the ship's sirens. Captain Mercer took a moment to compose himself in an attempt to move forward in his seat. As he looked around his navigational systems, he realized he found himself adrift in his small, solitary spacecraft, surrounded by the inky blackness of the cosmos. Although Mercer's ship was designed for the toughest of environments, a marvel of human engineering, equipped with state-of-the-art technology and a vast array of instruments, it all seemed irrelevant. Whatever happened to his ship had left him with only a few hours of life support. He tried to ignore the panic that began to creep at his insides as he silenced the alarms. As Mercer lay strapped to his seat, thinking of his next move, his ship drifted upon a familiar sight: Jupiter. He'd made it, and his target was calculated to pass by his position in just 4 hours. Relief washed over him. He had a chance to escape this desolation. Each second felt eternal as time ticked away. Mercer's body was sore but uninjured, yet the silence felt like torture, tormented by his own imagination about the countless scenarios that could unfold before him. Mercer focused on stabilizing his situation until the ship would go by. Suddenly, his heart jumped as his communication transponders sprung to life. Mayday! Mayday, this is the Royal Voyager requesting immediate assistance, over. The signal was strong, yet it was barely audible, almost like they were whispering. As the EPSILON-9 drifted lifelessly in space, the ship loomed larger and larger in Mercer's viewport. There he saw what looked to be a giant glistening white tube, floating eerily through the void of space. Mercer responded, "Come in, Royal Voyager. This is Captain Philip Mercer from Galactic Command. Do you read me?" Only static answered his plea. The transponders whispered again, "Mayday! Mayday, this is the Royal Voyager requesting immediate assistance, over." Mercer attempted to reply over and over with no response. Maybe his transponders had been damaged as well, Mercer thought. Determined not to let this opportunity slip away, Mercer engaged what was left of his ship's frail propulsion systems, pushing it to its limits and ignoring all warnings on his console. He maneuvered his craft toward the approaching ship, leaving behind a trail of metal fragments from the ship like breadcrumbs. He hoped that he could enter the docking bay, or at least reach the outer walls to dock manually. As his ship maneuvered closer, he could see the Royal Voyager cruise ship was plastered on the side of the hull, with a smiling family, hugging each other in the background. However, even with its cheery white exterior, the ship appeared dark, battered and lifeless. Mercer's unease arose with each passing moment. As his ship seemed to be on its last leg, Mercer caught the docking bay opening for him. Without missing a beat, he guided the dwindling ship inside, barely making it aboard when his propulsion systems completely failed, crashing into the ground with a heavy thud. Mercer exhaled a sigh of relief and began an entry log for Galactic Command. Captain's log, June 15th, 3063, approximately 0600 hours. I ran into some trouble in jump space, but I have managed to dock at the Royal Voyager cruise ship a few hours behind schedule. Mercer looked around the cold and empty docking bay. Docking lights are barely functioning and everything in the bay is in disarray. The maintenance crew definitely needs more personnel for this upkeep. I see people approaching the ship. I will attempt to make contact. Captain Mercer out. Mercer found that his adrenaline was waning as he stepped off the EPSILON-9 and landed on his feet. His legs shook momentarily but corrected. As he composed himself, he saw the individuals walking toward him were dressed in tattered garments. The oldest of the group wore a breathing apparatus around his face and spoke when they reached him. "Hello, my name is Captain Quan Wu. Who might you be?" he asked cautiously. "I am Captain Philip Mercer. I've been sent from Galactic Command. I'm here to help repair your ship." The group looked at each other and traded confused looks. A spark went off in Wu's brain. "Captain Mercer, you say?" he said, stroking his chin. "What day do you think it is?" "June 15th, 3063, Mercer responded, confused. Mercer could see the look of shock in the group's face, as Captain Wu could only manage to give a chuckle as he passed his hand over his hair slowly in an irritated motion. He then placed his hand on Mercer's shoulder and said, "Well, you're about 60 years too late, buddy," and gave him a toothy yellow smile. "Welcome to the year 3123. Captain Wu turned around and began to walk away from Mercer, each step of his shoes clanking against the metal grates of the docking bay as the sound reverberated around Mercer. When clipping the anomaly, his passage through the jump must have set his trajectory off by 60 years. Mercer could feel his blood turning cold as his legs began to give. The group huddled around him just in time to catch him. "Don't worry, kid, we still might have something you could do for us," Wu said as he passed the docking bay's doors. The group slowly carried Mercer out of the bay until the doors shut behind them, leaving the EPSILON-9 alone in the cold dark hangar.